Hello everyone, welcome to Drink and Brews. It's May 2023 and I'd like to present you guys with another deck building and brew video. Today we're talking about revised 40 tribal decks and I'm presenting you with my top 8. By tribal decks I mean a deck that has a tribe of creatures or is based around a specific creature type. Here are the rules that I had for making this top 8 list. First of all, the tribe has to have its own strategic identity and payoff. I'm looking specifically for creature types that have a mention of that creature type among other cards. I'm not looking for 10 to 12 Ironroot Tree Folk with no benefit to playing that many of that card. Next, it may go without saying the tribe must be creature based. There are many casual mentions in Revised 40 of decks like Stone Rain Tribal or Psychic Venom Tribal, and that's not what I'm looking for with this video. Next, the tribe must be specific. I'm not looking for a bunch of attacking creatures with Orcish Oriflamme, or a bunch of white creatures with Crusade, or a bunch of black creatures with Bad Moon, or a bunch of creatures, period, with Keldon Warlord. Instead, I'm looking for specific creature types mentioned on cards. And finally, I award extra points to flavor of the deck, and I want to acknowledge decks that have the best reach, which is to say that they have the best ability to win after the opponent has stabilized. Most of these decks are aggressive, and getting the last few points of damage in Revised 40 is difficult at times. With that being said, let's start with number 8. It's an honorable mention because I really, really like the deck, and that is Warrior Tribal. This deck won a Facebook League in 2022. It is all composed of warrior creatures. The most impressive thing about this deck is that it has no rares whatsoever. No Mind Twist is especially surprising for a deck that has swamps in it. So Goblin Balloon Brigade, Urg Raiders, Dwarven Warriors, and Orcish Artillery are all warriors. This deck gets aggressive with a sly sort of curve through the Goblin Balloon Brigades into Urg Raiders. The deck has reach with fireballs, lightning bolts, and activating Dwarven Warriors and Orcish Artillery. It's really an impressive thing to see in action. Unfortunately, there's no mention whatsoever of the warrior archetype, or warrior creature type, rather, on any of the cards. Goblin Balloon Brigades in their revised printing simply say goblins. Urg Raiders are raiders on the revised printing. Dwarven Warriors are dwarves, and Orcish Artillery are simply orcs. For that reason, the deck is not higher on the list, but what a beautiful deck, and congratulations to Mark on his victory with this brew. So then we go to number 7, and the worst of the list, not making it any higher, and that is Walls. There is a card that mentions walls. Animate Wall will allow Wall of Swords and Wall of Fire to attack, but at what cost? This deck is so low on the list because Wall of Swords, Wall of Fire, and Animate Wall cost a tremendous amount of rare and uncommon slots. And in Revised 40, the builds have rules that don't allow but 5 rares and 10 uncommons. And here you see how constricted I am with 1 Lightning Bolt and 2 Swords to Plowshares in those slots. I think that this deck can win because of the powerful rares Earthquake and Balance, in addition to the 6 X spells, 3 Disintegrate and 3 Fireball. But that's not ultimately what I hope to see in a creature tribal archetype. And then the combination of Wall of Swords and Animate Wall is worse than Sarah Angel on its own, which only costs 3 uncommon slots. So we move on to number 6, which is Dwarves. Dwarven Warriors enable one another to be unblockable. They will be enchanted with Fire Breathing, and then all of your red mana will go into extra power for the unblockable Dwarven Warrior or Dwarven Weaponsmith. Finally, once all that red mana goes into Fire Breathing, we are less susceptible to our own power surge. Dwarven Weaponsmith is primarily there as a 2-drop to help you sort of curve out with this deck. And then Iron Star is a concession to Dwarven Weaponsmith being in the deck and having something to feed him. Unfortunately, you can't even activate Dwarven Weaponsmith very much without making your creature immune or unable to be targeted by Dwarven warriors. And because of that flavor fail, Dwarves is stuck at number 6. And so we move on to number 5. Number 5 is Elves. And Elves are such a disappointment for me because of how much support they received in later sets, starting in 1995, 96, etc. The Elves archetype has no Lord, such as Lord of Atlantis, Zombie Master, Goblin King. Instead, the rare is Elvish Archers, a 2/1 first striker, which at least is an upgrade from its alpha form. So you play a bunch of elves, and then you attack in and get through with giant growths, and then the deck has reach with Hurricane at the end. Perhaps a better payoff for all of your Llanowar elves would be a Force of Nature, or Crawl Worms, or even Winter Orb, but those don't feel like they are appropriate for a tribal archetype. I wish elves that could be higher, but unfortunately they're stuck at number 5. The number 4 revised 40 tribe is Zombies. Scathe Zombies is a very awkward card. It's a gray ogre, and in a format that has access to things like Herd Ape and Savannah Lions, 3 mana for a 2/2 is just such a bad rate. Zombies does get incidental value and evil presence, giving Scathe Zombies and Zombie Masters unblockability. And occasionally, Evil Presence will just randomly mana screw an opponent and steal you a game. Many zombie decks play 2 Bad Moon 2 Nevinyrral's Disc instead of the 2 Bad Moon. But I'm playing Bad Moon instead because Disc doesn't play well with Evil Presence. And often the Zombie Master Disc interaction is not as effective as one would think because of losing your Zombie Master when it is over. So we move on to the number 3 deck, which is Merfolk. Merfolk is a very fun, very low to the ground, very fast and aggressive deck. And Merfolk of the Pearl Trident and Lord of Atlantis are often unblockable because of the incidental islands that opponents have. And Magical Hack allows you to change an opponent's land into an island so that your 5/5 Lord of Atlantis or 5/5 Merfolk of the Pearl Trident are sure to be unblockable even against a red-green opponent. Unsummons and control magic, tempo an opponent out, and then Serendib Efreet combines with Unstable Mutation to create a very fast and evasive clock. Unfortunately, Merfolk doesn't sit higher on the list because it lacks reach. There's no Psionic Blast to deal the last few points of damage, and that's always been the problem that has held Merfolk back for me. So what is the number 2 deck? The number 2 archetype is all lords. Every single Plague Rats makes the others larger. If you have 4 Plague Rats in play, you have 16 power on the board, and that can happen as soon as turn 3 or 4. Plague Rats can really get away from the opponent and create an unstoppable army. And the 3 Paralyze really create such a burden on the opponent's ability to block. Suddenly their blocker is going to cost 4 mana, and you're going to have one turn where you're going to get the Plague Rats through. It's very hard to recover from that. If the opponent does recover and stabilize, then you do have 2 pieces of reach in Drain Life and Pestilence. This is incidentally another rareless archetype, and it is extremely powerful and very fun to play. So the number 1 tribal archetype in Revised 40 is Goblins. Goblins are extremely fast and aggressive. The one problem that I would say, the one con of Goblins is the 3 mana Lord in comparison with a card like Crusade, Bad Moon, or Lord of Atlantis. Goblin King does cost 3, and so that requires you to play the 15th or maybe even 16th Mountain to hit that creature on curve. But the payoff is a lot of incidental unblockability because many decks are playing red in Revised 40. Goblins, since it is playing red itself, has access to a tremendous amount of reach in 9 burn spells. And then Mana Barbs allows you to attack an opponent even through a card like Circle of Protection Red, which would otherwise be a problem. So that is my top 8 list for Revised 40 tribal archetypes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you're inspired to build and play this format. What formats do you think, or excuse me, what decks do you think I missed out on? Should I have included skeletons with Drudge Skeletons and Wall of Bone, maybe with Pestilence? Should I have included Ironroot Treefolk after all? Should I have included Elementals or Constructs? Let me know what your favorite Revised 40 tribes are. Thank you all. Goodbye.